Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I didn't expect the night to end the way it did. It was supposed to be simple, casual. A friend's birthday at a rooftop bar downtown. Music low enough to talk, drinks overpriced enough to feel special. I remember thinking, this is nice. We're good right now. Her name is Alara. Not short for anything. Just Alara. She always said her parents wanted something different. I met her 3 years ago, and for most of that time I thought different was exactly what we were. I'm Rowan, 34, project manager, predictable life, predictable plans. Alara was color, noise, big opinions, big emotions. People noticed her when she walked into a room. I noticed her even when she didn't say a word. That night, she'd already had a couple drinks before I arrived. I could tell by the way she laughed a little louder than usual, leaned into people she barely knew. I didn't think much of it. I ordered us another round, introduced her to a coworker, tried to keep things light. Somewhere between the second drink and the birthday cake, the conversation turned to weddings. Not ours specifically, just the idea. Someone joked about rings and deadlines, and Alara laughed and said, "Relax, I'm not in a rush." Then she looked at me, not softly, not playfully. She tilted her head, smiled in that way that isn't really a smile, and said loudly enough for the table next to us to hear, "I mean, look at him. You could never be a good husband. I'm not going to marry you." The laugh that followed wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone's, really. It was that awkward, scattered sound people make when they don't know whether they're supposed to react. My coworker stared at his drink. Someone else coughed. Alara kept smiling like she'd just said something clever. I didn't feel angry. Not immediately. I felt hollow, like something dropped straight through my chest and didn't bother landing. If you've ever been embarrassed by someone you love in public, tap the like button. It helps this story reach the people who quietly understand moments like this. I looked at her for a second longer than I should have. I think I was waiting for her to laugh and say she was kidding, or to notice my face and pull it back. She didn't, so I did the only thing that felt possible. I set my glass down, nodded once, and walked away. I didn't storm out. I didn't say a word. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of a reaction she could spin later. I just left. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, hands in my pockets, listening to the muffled music from inside. People were still laughing up there, still celebrating, like nothing had happened. On the drive home, my phone buzzed twice. Once from Alara. I didn't read it. Then from someone saved in my contacts as Maria, her friend. Not her closest friend, but close enough to know things. The message read, "Do you even know what happened after you left?" I stared at it at a red light. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part wanted answers I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. I typed back one word. "What?" While I waited, my mind kept replaying that moment at the table. Not the words exactly, the tone, the certainty, like she'd been holding that sentence for a while, just waiting for an audience. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think public disrespect ever comes from nowhere? Or is it always something that's been building quietly? Maria didn't reply right away. Minutes passed. I pulled into my apartment parking lot and sat there with the engine off, phone resting in my hand. That silence felt heavier than the insult. When the message finally came through, it was longer. She wrote that after I left, Alara laughed it off at first. Told everyone I was too sensitive. Said I couldn't take a joke. But then someone asked why she'd say something like that if she didn't mean it. That's when Alara's mood shifted. According to Maria, she started venting. Loudly. About how I wasn't ambitious enough. How I played things safe. How I talked about saving and planning instead of living. How she felt like she was dragging me forward instead of walking beside me. I read the message twice. Not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed something I'd been pretending not to see. If one word keeps coming to your mind right now, respect, clarity, or freedom, type that exact word in the comments. I want to know which part of this is hitting you. Maria ended her message with, "I thought you deserved to know." I didn't reply. I went upstairs, unlocked my door, and stood in the dark of my apartment, shoes still on, jacket still zipped. 3 years is a long time to realize you've been auditioning for a role someone already decided you'd never get. I sat down on the edge of the couch and thought about all the times Alara had joked about me being too stable, too calm, too predictable. I thought those were differences we balanced each other with. I didn't realize they were marks against me on a list she'd been keeping. If you know someone who's currently staying silent in a relationship just to keep the peace, share this story with them. Sometimes seeing it from the outside changes everything. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Alara. A missed call. No message. Just the call. I didn't return it, because for the first time I wasn't thinking about fixing anything. I was thinking about whether walking away had been the first honest thing I'd done in a long time. The next ping from Maria changed the night entirely. It wasn't a long message, just a few lines that carried more weight than any argument or shouting match ever could. Alara didn't expect you to walk away. She's asking if you know what she said afterward. You should probably see this for yourself. I stared at my phone, scrolling through the text multiple times. My chest tightened. Part of me wanted to ignore it. I had already decided that silence was my only answer. Part of me knew that whatever she had said, it would reveal exactly how much I'd misunderstood all along. Without thinking, I typed, "What did she say?" Maria's reply came almost immediately. She admitted she doesn't see us together. Not because of the small fights or your habits. She said she can't picture marriage with you. She told the group that she wants someone exciting, unpredictable. Someone like she imagined in her head. I felt a strange combination of relief and hollow emptiness. Relief because I hadn't misjudged the situation. Hollow emptiness because 3 years of hope, planning, late-night talks, and careful compromises were summarized in a single statement she delivered in front of strangers. If you've ever felt like your efforts in a relationship were invisible, hit the like button. This story is for you, and it needs to reach people who feel the same. I didn't reply to Maria after that. I put the phone down and went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. I leaned against the counter and tried to process what had just happened. I kept thinking about the moment at the bar, the laughter, the people around us who had become witnesses to the end of something I had once considered safe, warm, and permanent. Then, as if on cue, another message came from Alara. "Rowan, can we talk?" I didn't answer. Instead, I waited. A few minutes later, Maria sent another. "She's crying. She says she overreacted. That she didn't mean it the way it sounded. That you walked away and now she can't stop thinking about it." I read it and set the phone down. I realized that this wasn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. This was about her control. The moment I walked away, the script she had written for the night shattered. The power she thought she had evaporated the second I chose silence over argument. Drop a comment and let me know. If someone publicly disrespects you, do you react or walk away? I'm curious what people think about this type of confrontation. Hours passed. I stayed on the couch, letting my thoughts circle around the same few truths. I deserved respect. I deserved someone who saw me, who valued my presence, and who wouldn't humiliate me in front of strangers. And if she couldn't do that, no apology or excuse could undo the damage. Then, late into the night, Maria messaged one final time. She said if you had stayed, she'd have continued to push, continue to yell, continue to test you. She thinks you finally did what she always needed someone to do. Stand firm without reacting. I smiled, not because I was happy about the humiliation or the breakup, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt a quiet, sharp clarity. I hadn't failed. I hadn't lost control. I had acted in a way that was honest, calm, and self-respecting. If you feel empowered by this kind of self-respect, share this story professionally with friends or family. Let them see that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and unwavering. By morning, I hadn't heard from Alara directly. My phone stayed silent except for Maria's final text. "She's realizing she can't force what isn't there." I poured myself a coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and thought about all the nights I had spent worrying if I was enough. That night, I realized that being enough isn't about proving yourself to someone else. It's about recognizing your own value and refusing to let anyone strip it away. If this story resonates, comment below with the word that best describes how it made you feel: clarity, strength, or freedom. Let's see what this moment evokes in everyone. Weeks later, I ran into Alara at a mutual friend's gathering. She smiled awkwardly. I nodded politely, no bitterness, no explanation. In that moment, I understood. Some lessons aren't learned through confrontation. They're learned through boundaries, patience, and the courage to walk away when respect is absent. If you've ever had to take a stand quietly like Rowan did, comment your experience. Let's have a mature discussion about boundaries and respect. And as I left that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because the situation had changed, but because I had changed. I hadn't reacted to shame, humiliation, or provocation. I had acted with dignity, and in doing so, I reclaimed a piece of myself that I didn't even know was lost. So here's my final thought. If you believe in respecting yourself first, hit like, comment your thoughts on what respect means to you, and subscribe to follow more stories that explore human strength and emotional clarity. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps others learn the same lessons. That night, I finally slept without the weight of someone else's expectations pressing down on me. Silence had never felt so loud or so freeing. And in that quiet, I understood that walking away isn't the end. Sometimes it's the very beginning.